Hi, you're listening to Celluloid Codswallop with James and Gemma. Sit down and enjoy yourself, grab a snack, and have some fun.
Hello and welcome to this week's Celluloid Codswallop. Now this one, we've gone from discussing a wonderful, wonderful film about Catwoman to discussing a truly, truly terrible film. And I'd just like to say, on behalf of, Head Scout and The Voice, we will not be held responsible for anybody who sees this film and develops a alcohol or drug dependency or problem afterwards. So I'm going to bring on my wonderful, brilliant, exceptional, and frankly, made of incredibly strong stuff to discuss this film with me. Co-host for this episode, Joanne. Joanne, welcome.
Hi, James. I am so sorry. I was just sniggering there through your intro because the only reason why you watched it was because I asked you to.
This is true.
I owe you so much drink. In fact, you don't drink and I don't drink, so I owe you a chocolate of choice. Whatever chocolate or sweet you demand, I think I'll have to probably give you a bucket load next time I see you.
In 2029 or whenever that is, when we're actually allowed out to do things.
Oh dear. I think we need a vaccination against this film.
Exactly. So Joanne, tell us why you chose this film.
Well, we all know I'm a kinkster and I'm into sadomasochism, so I think that's possibly part of it. Well, I thought, because we did Batman Returns and we absolutely loved it, and I asked you that time we recorded it, have you ever seen Catwoman? No, you said. You've got to watch it. Let's review it. And you actually took me up on it. You were game, I have to say. Yeah. I obviously had seen it whenever it came out because I just love Catwoman. And this was the film that I had wanted to see ever since Michelle Pfeiffer graced our screens in '92, and the Batman animated series. And of course, way back in the '60s, we had Julie Newmar and Eartha Kitt and your other woman who wasn't as good that was in the film, whose name has just left me.
Lee Merriweather?
That'll be her. Yeah, I didn't think she was just as good as the other two. But, so, yes, Catwoman, the 2004 film that really probably never should have been, that had all the hopes of us leather-clad lovers in its tight little paws, and that just, really it did what cats do. It killed us and left us on somebody's doorstep. Because this film... Yeah, I think a dead bird is on your doorstep was probably a better gift than what this film gave us.
Well, I'm inclined to agree, but the film has an interesting bit of history because obviously '92 Batman Returns came out and, Michelle Pfeiffer was Catwoman. And the original plan from that was they looked at doing a spin-off. And my understanding of what was going to happen with that is it was going to be I don't know if Tim Burton would have still done it, but this idea was that I think some sort of amnesiac still Selena ends up in like somewhere that's like a comic book version of Las Vegas where there are other former DC characters, say, and she's going to move on in some sort of criminality there. Don't know what it would have been like. Could have been completely bonkers. We'll never know. That obviously never came to fruition. And then I believe Ashley Judd was the actress they looked at for the longest time to play the part. And I do remember reading articles where they sort of saying she was definitely going to go ahead with it. It was going to happen. That fell through for some reason, and they got Halle Berry. And on paper, Halle Berry probably looks like a really good choice to do the film because I don't know if she had won the Oscar or she was up for the Oscar. And she was going to make this film, and she's beautiful and she's talented. And the wheels just fell off. And the thing that I don't get about this film is when you look at the cast, it has a good cast. You've got Halle Berry, you've got Sharon Stone, you've got Lambert Wilson, you've got the love interest whose name I've had a moment where the name escapes me as well. But the chap who plays the love interest in, you've got a good cast. And I don't really understand why things didn't work well. But even looking at the opening credits of this film, they look like a really bad way of trying to tell a story quickly and grab your attention. You know, they're trying to show this great historic sweep of the Catwoman has been around forever in some form, and it then cuts like a cliched thing of Halle Berry saying, you know, this was the day I died, but the day I lived. And it just seems, I always felt that it was hyped up. You expected a lot from it, and it just seemed to be a mess.
Oh, yeah.
Complete mess.
I mean, totally. This film was a replacement, apparently, for, I think it might have been some other Batman film. Might have been Batman versus Superman, something like that, way back then. And it was cancelled. And they decided, we'll do the Catwoman one instead. I mean, the film, all the way through it, has the production values of an 80s made-for-TV movie. And the theme tune, the tunes in it, some of the music actually wasn't bad. There's a couple of bits and pieces that were sort of modern at that time. But some of the, the incidental music and the actual theme tune of Catwoman, it just reminded me so much of a TV movie. And to be honest, if you watch it with that in mind, that this is a TV movie, like a pilot for a series that they were going to do, you could forgive it a bit more. But when you're sitting in the cinema, you've gone to the cinema to see this thinking, at long last, they've made the long anticipated Catwoman film, and this drivel comes on with no reference to Batman or any other character in the DC universe at all. And suddenly they've got this new mythos for Catwoman that wasn't relevant to the comic at all. And you're thinking, why are you doing this? Why are you punishing the fans this way? Everything about it was just low budget. And I actually sat and watched the making of, because I in preparation for this, I bought a DVD off eBay, because I thought, where can I get this? I thought, I'll go on eBay. And it cost me like £2. But there's special features on it.
Robbed.
Oh, I know.
You were robbed.
You know what the best thing actually about the special features? There's the many faces of Catwoman on it, which is an absolutely brilliant short documentary on Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer's in it, Julie Newmar's in it, Eartha Kitt's in it. Actually, Eartha Kitt hosts it, but there's an interview with her in it as well. Lee Merriweather's in it. The voice of Catwoman from the animated series is in it. And they also talked to Halle Berry. There was great love from all the women that were interviewed for the Catwoman character. And it was a very good documentary, and it was nearly worth it for that alone. But of course, they had the usual 15 minutes off, and it was only 15 minutes. So that probably should have told me, off the making of Catwoman. The amount of hope and love in everybody's eyes, I think they genuinely thought that this was something quite good they were making. I mean, I'll give you an example. Halle Berry did training for Crag McGraw. That sounds like a town here in Northern Ireland, but it's some sort of Brazilian martial art.
Uh-huh.
And she moved. You want to see her move? A lot of the stunts that were in that, she actually did them. She did the moves herself. And I thought, my goodness, that is incredible. And it was all just wasted. There was a small section where it was the justification for the costume that they chose. And the reason for it was they wanted to be able to show the sinewy sexiness of a cat, and so that you could see all the muscles. And the reason why she had sandals on, this did make me laugh, was because it was like the paws of a cat, and cats use their paws, and that's just a load of bullshit. All I wanted to do was get Halle Berry's stomach and tits out for everybody to see. Don't get me wrong,
now,
she looked amazing in what was a shit costume.
Yeah, I mean, I will support that part of the film. That gets the James Stafford seal of approval. What I will say on this film, though, is that I think one of the problems it has is that if you look at it, so to 99.9% of the population, the character of Catwoman is Selina Kyle, and it's part of the Batman story. But obviously, they either couldn't get the rights or just being I don't know. I don't know whether they took some pre-existing. I always have a hunch they might have taken a pre-existing story for another film and gone, yeah, we'll play around with it and turn it to Catwoman, because Halle Berry plays it. Is it Patience Pride she's called?
It's something along those lines.
Who's some sort of like graphic artist at Lambert Wilson's firm that may or may not make drugs or face creams or something. I was a bit strange what they were really making, but I just find that it didn't feel. I mean, it wasn't Catwoman, was it? And they'd sort of like gone, right, we're gonna have to somehow shoehorn the Catwoman story in, and as you said, they completely changed it, and I find it very hard to believe. I mean, it was a point they made on something called Cinema Sins talk about this film. So Lambert Wilson's supposedly trying to find these gorgeous models who are going to sell the new. It's a face cream, isn't it? That has all weird properties. And Sharon Stone is Sharon Stone his wife?
I think so. It's never explicitly said, but I do think she is. Yeah. Yes. What a waste of a great actress there.
Totally. I mean, you've got Oscar winners in this film. That's the thing I can't get. And is it Benjamin Bratt who's the love interest? Does that ring a bell?
Do you know, I actually didn't recognize him, and I couldn't remember what his name is. I had thought about writing everybody's name out that was in the film, and I kind of lost the will to live, to be honest, at the thought of it. He was just very wooden, really, really wooden.
Yeah.
Like he was really hoping that somewhere along the line somebody would justify why he was even in the film. I mean, once again, this is what gets me. It's a female not a superhero, but it's a female character. And what does the female character have to do? She has to have a love interest. They did it in Wonder Woman as well. And the thing about this film is, even though it was a critical and a financial flop, it was still the highest grossing female superhero style film until Wonder Woman.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, I thought, no way. I read it earlier and thought, you've got to be joking.
But it's the other problem I have for this, like Halle Berry, she starts out, she's got long hair, she's still an attractive woman, but I don't know if they're trying to downplay her as being dowdy or something. And then, she dies, she gets bumped off by, was he a bouncer or something, or some sort of, I could never quite find. You'll notice this for listening to the sort of fellows listening to this. We're just really confused by this film. The level of pure crapness that is this film. We're discussing this for amusement, but it's like she suddenly decides to chop all the hair off, and it's going to like suddenly empower her and make her a better person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I actually think what they were trying to do at that stage was, they were trying to bring in a wee bit of Selina Kyle from Batman Returns. Do you know how she gets out with the scissors and cuts up her PVC coat? So I thought, oh, here we go. She's out with scissors. It was the same sort of thing. I don't know what it is with these women, but they seem to be able to go into their wardrobes and lift out things to make costumes. And they have everything there that they need, which always amuses me. But she had this leather jacket and trousers. Apparently it was her dating emergency outfit. Well, no harm to you. If I was a bloke and a woman turned up dressed in that outfit, I think, well, you've an awful lot of clothes on, because she was covered completely from her neck down to her ankles in this black outfit. It's not very nice in Halle Berry, but it wasn't what I would have thought of as a dating outfit. But she brings her scissors out and she gives herself the most perfect Karen cut. At any moment, I was waiting for her to say, I want to talk to the manager, because it was like a perfect Karen style cut. The way it was cut short, and then it was almost like somebody had rubbed her head with a rubber balloon. Well, all balloons are rubber, so what am I talking about? With a balloon, inflated balloon, because the static cling in her hair was everywhere. Sometimes it looked nice. The first night she goes out, she steals that guy in the party, his Ducati, and she goes out, and I think it's possibly one of the only good scenes in the movie for me was she goes into the jewelers and she tackles the burglars. And I actually thought that was quite nicely done. At that point I thought, oh, maybe this is better than I remembered. I'm kind of enjoying this. The fight scene I thought was possibly closer to what a cat and a Catwoman would fight like if she was real. And then apart from the meow bit she went, she says to one of the robbers, which was a bit naff.
Well, yeah, she also has this thing of doing the perfect thing, doesn't she? She says something like, that would be perfect. And I can't either thinking they're trying to copy her, the kid.
Yes.
Or, which is what I assume they're trying to do, but it just did not work. And it, there's a lack of logic to even the cat stuff. Like she goes out on a balcony to try and save, not a balcony, a windowsill to try and save a cat.
Yeah, that's at the beginning because allegedly this Egyptian Mao cat, is testing her to see whether she's suitable to have the powers that the cat is going to bestow on her, because allegedly the cat knows when Halle Berry's going to die. This is according to the eccentric woman that seems to own the cat, who lives in a house with millions of books
Who
and a very dodgy
interesting-
railing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
who
also has a very
though-
dodgy railing. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, sorry, what did you say? Yeah.
No, I was going to say the interesting thing is it's Frances Conroy who plays that woman.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, who was in The
Uh-huh.
Joker. So we at least have a positive link there.
Well, actually, I haven't seen, believe it or not, I haven't seen The Joker, which is bad. What I know her from, because I'm thinking, why do I know you? How do I know? You know how you get this mad thing in your head, you think, I know somebody. Whereas years ago, you couldn't, you'd be wrecking your brains for weeks to think who it was.
Yeah.
I went online immediately onto the phone and went, oh, that's the housekeeper in American Psycho. Not American Psycho.
You're kidding.
American Horror Story.
Right, okay.
That's her. The older woman who seems to be some sort of succubus, because sometimes she's seen as some young sexy thing in a French maid's outfit, and the women, they see her as an older housekeeper. So I've only seen series 1. I have to get round to watching the rest of them. Apparently they're very, very good. Series 1 is possibly not the worst of a good bunch, but just the one that's not as good as the rest of them. But I thought, where'd I know her from? And there's actually 2 people in this movie from Hell on Wheels. I don't know whether you've ever seen it.
I haven't, but tell me more.
Yeah, it's actually really good though. The last season went off a wee bit. It's about Bohannon, who is actually he's actually Captain Pike in Discovery. It was the actor.
Wow.
Anson Mount.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even recognize him whenever I seen him dressed as Pike. I thought, I know that voice. How do I know him? And it took me 3 episodes before I realized it was Anson Mount, and he had been on Hell on Wheels. But it's about the establishment of the railroads across the American West in 1800 and something, and it was really, really good, and goes on to show the conditions of the Chinese workers that they use, the migrant workers and the black workers, and just everybody, and the terrible conditions people went through, and brings the Masons in. But the whole storyline is absolutely fantastic. It follows this particular guy who had been a Southern soldier and who was kind of just floating about after the death of his family, and he joins a railroad and establishes himself in the hierarchy, but still very down to earth. But I can't remember where I'm going with this. Oh yes. Anyway, one of his enemies in it is a guy called the Swede, and he is the guy holding the party across the street from Halle Berry's place. She shouts at him to shut up. Yep. And I didn't recognize, and I thought I know him from somewhere, and then it dawned on me it was the Swede. But one bit about, I actually didn't mind the party scene, because she kicks the door in and lays him flat, and actually uses the tube from the drinks machine as a whip. I thought, you got wee moments where you thought, I can live with this. That's quite clever. Can we have more?
I mean, I did find it, I don't know if I thought it was good or bad, that, when she's died and come back to life, ripping off Batman Returns, clearly, she decides to do like this cat thing where she's just like shoveling tuna into herself.
Yeah.
Where she's just eating tins upon tins upon tins of tuna, and it seems that it's trying a bit too hard, if you get my drift.
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to think whether it's a terrible sign to how much we dislike this film that we're actually discussing other things when we're coming to it. We're trying to discuss it. But I mean, it does waste a good cast. You've got like Alex Borstein in it, who plays like a friend who has the allergic reaction to the face cream. And for those who aren't, they know Alex Borstein worked on Family Guy. She's one of the voices. She voices Lois on Family Guy, and she's in other things that Seth MacFarlane's done. Yep, that is her.
Wow. Gosh, she's brilliant. Oh, what a waste. Yeah, what an absolute waste. I mean, don't get me wrong. Halle Berry, I admire that they chose a person of colour to be the main character. Because bear in mind, that was early 2000s, and it was still kind of unusual. Halle Berry was one of the few actors that was quite popular. She was actually really good, and she was in a James Bond movie, I think a few years after that. I remember being really surprised because I wasn't really into Bond. And she was very, very good in it.
She was in Die Another Day, but that too was a pretty bad dud and failure as films go.
There was talk, actually, I don't remember at the time, there was talk about a spin-off for her character from that particular film.
You're
So,
right, I considered doing a Jinx spin-off.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was, Jinx, she called her. And yes, that was, I think that they did pick a great actress for it, but she was let down. And dear help her, I think she really tried to make something of this. She tried to establish her own Catwoman, and she had the history of Catwoman behind her. As I said earlier, all the actresses that have done it, it would be extremely difficult to come up with your own version of Catwoman. I mean, everybody was looking at this to be the successor to Batman Returns. Imagine the pressure, and then you have this shit script. I feel so sorry for her. I genuinely do. I think she tried to make the best of an absolutely dreadful movie, and I'm convinced that Warner Brothers did not give them any money. That half the problem was the money, because the CGI was so ropey.
I was going to get to that, because like when it opens and when you're seeing just what's supposed to be buildings, it's clearly obvious bad, or certainly cheap CGI, and it's a very strange. It's a strange thing, because even at the time, I'm sure you would see better stuff in things like The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Films of that period, it was a far better put together thing. I mean, to try and give our poor listeners some idea about this film. So the idea is that she's really downtrodden. She gets killed. She's brought back by Cat. She gets empowered. Does this sound like Batman Returns to anyone?
Yeah, without Batman.
So it's like the Batman Returns thing, but they've just done it. It's so cliched. Like she snaps at a boss, and like the job goes. And does she get fired, or does she walk out? I can't remember which, but she does the cliche thing. You can't tell. Yeah, you can't tell me what to do. Talk to the hand, sort of thing. And I don't know. It's like it's almost like someone sat at the list and gone, right, let's go with every cliche we possibly can.
Every trope has rolled out there. There's the woman who's getting older, who's worried about her looks, who turns evil.
Which is Sharon.
Really
Sharon Stone.
Yep. Because really she's the brains in it. There's the dopey husband who's the adulterer, who's running after younger women, who's a narcissist and an egotist. You have the downtrodden cop who works on his own. He works on his own so much that whenever, spoilers, she's arrested later on for the murder of Sharon Stone's husband, that he interviews her on his own. Now, he would be considered, what's the word? Now, the word occurred to me last night and I can't think. He would not be considered an independent investigator, because he's had a relationship with this woman. So, oh gosh, it's going to annoy me. There's actually a word for whenever your testimony is discredited because of your connection, and he should not be. He's interviewing her on her own. He's no papers in front of him, and he's not recording the interview in any way. So I'm thinking, how are you actually gathering evidence here? None of this is making any sense.
Is it an unreliable witness, and there'd be a conflict of interest, wouldn't there?
It would be along those lines, yes. And of course she says that. So there we go. There's the cop. He was a cop, and he did things his way. So he works on his own. So there you go. You've got that trope as well. You've got the bodyguards in the background that are automatically bad. We had the scientist actually at the beginning complaining to Sharon Stone in the research and development facility that patients earwigs in on their conversation, overacting, saying that he can't live with himself because of the damage that it's doing to people. This cream, it damages the skin, and if you stop it, your skin becomes irreparably damaged. But if you continue on with it, it turns to marble, as Sharon Stone explains later on. I've got the fingers out here pointing at bits and pieces in the air as I'm trying to describe this.
Come on. What's the plot of the film? It's not world domination. It's not, some megalomaniac trying to take over, say, a business and destroy things. It's a skin cream.
It's a skin cream. Yes, it's a skin cream. sold by what looks like the insignia of Horrible Histories. I don't know whether you've watched Horrible Histories. How's this for going off on a tangent? But the gates of the house that Sharon Stone and her husband, partner, whoever it is, lives in has the HH on it, and also the company has this HH. And all I could think of was Horrible Histories every time I seen that, because it was so similar. Now, Horrible Histories, I think, came after that, but no.
Well, the other thing I'm going to say, to you as a woman, so this is like one of the first sort of big female-led, superhero films. Is there not a tad to you? Am I just reading this wrong? That could it be construed as a tad sexist that the focus of this is a skin cream?
That's a good point, actually. I hadn't even thought of it that way. Possibly because I'm addicted to skin creams myself. Yeah, it is. I just find the whole film a bit made for TV, Mills and Boon.
Yeah.
You had the beautiful woman, you had the beauty product, you had the outfits. It was like, I mean, oh dear. Oh, talking about outfits, I have to say this. How did she go from her two-piece black jacket and black trousers, bootcut trousers, to this bra and these two belts and the trousers that were obviously they're supposed to be like ripped by a cat, and actually it was quite cheeky because you could see her bum as well, and a pair of high heel shoes, and the mask was given to her by the mad eccentric woman with the cats, and I don't know. I couldn't understand. There was no, with Michelle Pfeiffer, you really believed, you knew the reason for this costume. Yes, admittedly, you don't know where she got these absolutely fabulous boots from, or how she even made a PVC coat into a latex catsuit. But you believed it. You were completely willing to let that go. Completely willing to let that go, because the suit, like Michelle Pfeiffer, broke down over the film as she got more and more involved. Yeah, Halle Berry's just got, well, it only changed once, I suppose. It went from jacket and trousers to this thing that you would definitely do an S&M club in. No, you could go clubbing in that with absolutely no. Torture Garden in London would be the perfect place for that.
It's almost like, with that second costume, it's almost like you veer into like porn parody, territory with it.
Yes. And that mask, I think it's slightly Egyptian looking. Fair enough. There are some Egyptian things that look a bit like it. Now, I actually have that mask. When I was making, here we go, it's typical of me, let's face it, folks, there's always a cosplay story somewhere. I'm a bit like during the war, only for me it's cosplay stories. Like the Granda and Only Fools and Horses. I actually have that mask because whenever we were putting Catwoman together, me and son Taketo and I were putting Catwoman together 4 years ago, I think it was now, I bought so many different cat masks so we could have something to build on. And one of them, just out of curiosity, because I got it really, really cheap on eBay, was that mask. And actually, that mask, whenever you see it in real life, is quite nice. It does look slightly like Mickey Mouse with those big ears. But there's nice detailing on it. And I made it into a steampunk version, sort of like a steampunk S&M type version, if I'm really honest. And I put a big red ponytail on it and my other bits and pieces and put bits of colours and all on. But the mask itself is actually quite nice, apart from the fact the nose was really bulbous and I had to remodel it. But it was... When I first seen it, I was really genuinely shocked by the choice and the design of the mask.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't... Catwoman, I think, in the 39 Batman came out? I can't remember. I think Catwoman was early 1940s. She was a jewel thief and she had a cat mask on. It was like a cat mask.
Yeah, it was very simple, wasn't it? Very simple.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Nothing to me has looked like that. Even some of the Elseworlds Catwoman and some of the, alternative realities. It seemed a strange choice because of the way it was shaped and designed. That those big high arches at the front above the eyebrows. I would love to have seen. Did they come up with other ideas for it? What did they throw away that they thought that this was a good costume to choose? Fuck me. Who in their right mind would think, yeah, I'm really happy with his design, because the designer was actually quite well respected. She chose that. Well, sorry, she maybe didn't choose that. You've no option. Design something, make it sexy.
I mean, the other thing that I can't get my head around this time, they decided to give her cat-like powers, and she's suddenly having extra sensory. I mean, to me, it seems like they're trying to do a bit of a Spider-Man and give her, these extra abilities to see and sense things. But like when they have her playing basketball, wasn't it, against Benjamin Bratt's character?
Yes.
Are you telling me that a lot of people will notice the ability of the weird jumps and amazing things she's doing? Like nobody reacts to this at all. And
I can only think that if you were with a beautiful woman and she did that your hard-on would be just getting in the way of your critical thinking skills, and you would just go, well, I don't care that she can do all this and that she eats sushi when they go to the restaurant for their first date.
Well,
and she's sitting eating all the fish off the top of the sushi. That I think that's perfectly normal, because I just want to get into her knickers, to use a very colloquial expression.
I mean,
yeah.
Interesting. I did read something that was interesting about that scene with the sushi. Is that it was actually fruit made up to look like fish.
Right.
So she could just gobble it all down without a problem, I'm assuming. But the point you hit on there when you were talking about how she's attractive and it's that must be the forgiveness. It's like that text I sent you. Even the boobs of Berry cannot save this film.
No. I knew I was in trouble when I read that one. I thought, oh, even the boobs haven't done it.
Even
they were slightly hypnotic. The way she I quite like the way she walked. It was very sexy, but slightly hypnotic. And very confusing. Wasn't it?
What are you going to say, Joanne? I'm intrigued.
I was going to say, I was actually going to repeat myself, because I told this story whenever we did the Batman Returns. But in case you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to our Batman Returns review. It goes on for 2.5 hours, but it's worth it because we loved it so much. But yeah, I was going to tell the story again of whenever I went to the cinema to see this, and there was a group of teenagers in the audience. Do you remember that? And I think they were about 14. And they just got so fed up watching it. And one of them actually started to imitate her walk up and down the aisle. And it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And to this day, I still think that young guy might have gone on to become a drag queen, because he was perfect. He was absolutely fantastic. And his friends thought this was really funny. And didn't take away from the film. If you had have breathed near me during Batman Returns, I'd have ripped your head off. But seeing a teenager pretend to be Catwoman didn't take away from the film.
But I think what they said about one of the problems of this film is that, and I don't have a problem with this as a man. I find Halle Berry incredibly attractive. But the problem is, it's almost like they just tried to make her sexy, and it's not difficult. She's sexy. It's easy. The shots of her slinking around and her bottom and things. But it's like they did it just on a hope to sort of sell the film, on a whim, that they, to make her as amazing and slinky and sexy as possible. But it almost didn't tie to the performance. It didn't do anything for it. It was like, well, it's like the director's going, oh my God, this is really bad. How are we going to sell this? I know. We'll sell it as a female empowerment film to the girls, and we'll make it as sexy and mad as possible for the lads. And hopefully somewhere it'll meet in the middle.
Oh, it was almost like it had been shot and designed by virgins. People who had never had sex made this film because they thought, oh, this is what sexy is. Haven't a clue. Mm-hmm. Not the slightest bit.
Did you not feel that it looked, I don't know if it's the age of the film, but it didn't look right to me, the way it was shot. It seemed to be in some sort of strange filter to it.
Yeah, it had that, that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of the filters that they would have on, excuse me, the excitement there getting the better of me, I had to choke. It reminded me of the made-for-TV films, even in the 70s. Just that low budget, low quality film that they would have cranked out and maybe would have shown it on a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock when nothing else was on.
Or it'd be one of those things at 2 a.m. on TV when no one's watching.
No one in their right mind, apart from you, because I've asked you, would you watch it?
Yeah, they're pounding coffee and Red Bull to keep me going.
Yeah, very little really to recommend this film. I mean, it shows the difference actually because yes, we're under pain of death from Gemma that we're not allowed to talk for 2.5 hours again about a movie, but you don't even have this one playing in the background as you usually do.
I don't. No,
we're not even walking through this scene by scene.
Yeah, it's so bad. I mean, this is going to go down to one of our strangest celluloid codswallop together because we're not enthusiastic. We're actually fighting to try and find good things to say.
Yeah, we're fighting to fill the next 10 minutes. No, I'm livid for everybody involved because this could have been fantastic. They had the right actor for it. Some of the producers that were involved, some of the people that were involved, Batman Returns, were in it. Denise I can't pronounce her name. She was involved in it. Everything was lined up that it should have been there, but somebody decided that they were going to make a very bad porn parody with £2.50 because that's all the budget was. And I still actually would like to do that costume though, just out of curiosity to see, because once in a blue moon you'll see somebody with it online. Not too many people though.
Is that through the shame of what the film is?
Yeah, I think so, and also probably a lot of people going, "What are you supposed to be?"
Yeah, I'm going to ask one question of you. What on earth really was the Sharon Stone's character? What was her motivation apart from money and skin cream?
I think she was a narcissist. I'm trying to actually. I'm probably putting more thought into this than the people who wrote the damn thing did. I think she was a narcissist who didn't want to lose her looks, and who in the end who falls off the building, won't allow herself to be saved because Halle Berry has miraculously damaged the skin on her face. It's supposed to be like marble with a set of claws from this rare necklace. That was tenuous. That it really was. Not just her grip on the building, but the grip on the storyline at that point. So I think it was all to do with the fear of growing old. And okay, fair enough, I can understand that. But my goodness, you can actually see Sharon Stone sometimes looking really awkward and dialing it in, thinking, I'm getting such and such money for this. That'll do me. I was really hoping that maybe after this, she got enough money to get a decent haircut or a wig. Because again, that was another Karen style haircut that had been styled with a balloon. More static cling. I couldn't understand why the women in this film chose haircuts that just literally looked like they had been pulled through a bush. To use a really old expression, she literally looked like she'd been pulled through a hedge.
Yeah. Because I was thinking that when I looked at it myself, I thought, her hair seems odd in this. I mean, I thought everybody's hair was a bit strange in this film. But it was, I also found, going back to when I was talking about the way the thing was shot, it was like that old trick of Vaseline on the lens to try and make everybody look younger.
Yes. So everybody had almost like a 60-watt light bulb behind their nose because they kind of all shone. And as you say, it's kind of focused on the lens. Sharon Stone literally looked like someone had given her a good buff down. She was reflecting light.
I try to think if they're doing it to try and make Sharon Stone look younger, but she doesn't look bad in reality. But then I started watching it even as much as I could, fighting back the urge to vomit. And I'm thinking Lambert Wilson's got that weird look, but everybody had this sort of weird look. It was like, I don't know what they processed it with, but going back to the film, looking at it, the other problem it had on how cliched it is like you said, so magically the claws can damage the skin cream that messes up your face but can make it look young. That's bad enough. But the fact that it's a cliched way of killing her, when they kill Halle Berry, it's water. Cats don't like water. She gets flushed out of a pipe. It's like there's just a complete lack of imagination. And I'm sure there was a better film wanting to be made in this. I'm sure if they put a bit more effort and time in it, they could have made a better feature. But I don't know. I don't know what. The easiest way I can describe it is I don't think the film quite knew what it wanted to be.
No. I think it wanted to be a film, but it didn't quite make it that far. It was literally, do you know what? It was something the cat dragged in. That's what this film was.
Oh.
Something the cat dragged in. It was the furball that a cat has coughed up in the corner.
And you know it's bad when it made Roger Ebert's like most hated films list.
Yeah, that wasn't
That's
good.
bad.
Yeah, I think it was torn to bits as well for its sexism, and it won something like 7 Golden Raspberry Awards. I remember Halle Berry actually going and collecting her own, which is kind of unusual apparently. Yeah, I remember seeing it on TV at the time, going, yeah, I can understand why you won that.
I mean, I think that was brilliant that she turned up for it, because was he not in the same year she got her Oscar? So
I think so.
Yeah, because what has happened to Halle Berry's career since then?
That's a good question. I mean, she was somebody that...
Silence. Yeah. No, that was the teller. Silence. You could go, yeah, she's done this, this, and this. And if you think about it, she did Monsters Ball, she won an Oscar, she'd die another day. Things were not going well at that point. I can't remember if it was this or Die Another Day, but either way, it ain't good stuff. I'm trying to think.
She was in the last John... Yeah, I just remember she was in the last John Wick movie.
Yeah, but... Well, that's true, and she was okay in that, but she's not done anything where she's like a major person in things anymore. It's also like she's just doing bit parts and things, and it's like, is this the nail in the coffin, or was this the nail in the coffin for the big career for her? It's a difficult one to say, and that I was talking to my dad about this film, interestingly, because I was saying you and I were going to be doing a podcast about it, and he said, well, what would you encapsulate went wrong for it? And the way I look at it is, you had 92, the expectations were absolutely massive following that for Catwoman, because it was focused by Michelle Pfeiffer. And then, okay, so that didn't work out, and it was going to be Ashley Judd. And I think the problem the film had is it basically lost its way and its focus on what it wanted to be. And the promise it initially had, even if that maybe hadn't been perfect, and it might have been some strange style Tim Burton, maybe almost like what could have happened with Superman Lives, the Catwoman film that could have come from that could have been something completely different and turned it on its head, film-wise, and been something quite amazingly visual to see, with like all these supervillains who like escaped off to the Vegas style place to live together, and the crime and craziness that came from that. Instead, you got, I mean, Ashley Judd must have walked away from it, and I do remember once I read this interview where supposedly, because this film was going to be great, Ashley Judd was really, really unhappy that she'd walked away from it. Well, I'm pretty damn sure that after this film came out, she would not be regretting that at all, and she'd be thanking the lucky stars that she didn't make it. But I think what happened is it became so far detached from what it could have been that it just became some weird, generic, weird style, made for TV almost action film that had like superhero stuff stapled onto it, and they hoped it'd stick on the wall when they threw it. And it was probably, like I said earlier on, a story that had absolutely nothing to do with Catwoman originally. It could have been, to be honest, been any generic film with someone getting framed for crimes and weird rich people motivating things, moving stuff around. And I think what it also tried to be a little bit too much and failed gargantuanly at was it might have been trying to copy The Crow a bit in some of its weird stuff. And certainly when they made the trailer for this film, they took lines from The Crow and changed them to be about a cat.
Oh, good grief, I didn't even notice that. Now, there's a movie I haven't seen in a long, long time, The Crow.
Yeah, and
I haven't seen that in years.
A good film. So I've absolutely ripped it to shreds discussing it there. How would you feel about this film, Joanne?
I thought this was the greatest waste of one of the most complicated and cherished comic book characters that there is. I just think it was such a waste. There was so much that they could have pulled on from the comics. They didn't even have to go out and write some random story. They could have lifted anything from the comics. Catwoman, Selena Kyle, Catwoman is such an established figure, and just to leave her out of it didn't make any sense. I think confusion is the biggest thing that I take away from this film. You're right, it doesn't know what it wants to be, and that is the detriment to the film itself, because it is so directionless. I think you pretty much said it all, James, to be perfectly honest. You pretty much encapsulated how bad it was. I said it before, yeah. I genuinely feel so sorry for Halle Berry and for the people that were involved in this, because it was embarrassing. And actually, it's interesting because in the special features in the DVD, they actually had a section on deleted scenes, and one of the scenes appeared to be an alternative ending for the character, because she leaves the cop at the end because she wants to be this independent thing, this independent sexy thing walking across rooftops with her cat. And it seemed to be that those two stayed together, because they're talking at the end and he says to her, is that a new those real diamond earrings? And she went, oh, and he went, oh, you, well, if you're going to stay with me. So I thought, okay, they obviously must stay together. But no, I mean, put it this way, this film has been so bad, we haven't even made a pussy joke. Now, I'm sorry.
We haven't.
That is terrible. We haven't made any pussy jokes whatsoever. And Halle Berry could have been a damn fine pussy.
She could. I mean, this is probably going to go down as one of our weirdest Celluloid Codswallop, because we've not dissected the film. We've not even shown any love for the film. For you, sweet, lovely, salty tadpoles, this is probably the flattest we're ever going to review anything, because we just cannot get emotionally involved in this film at all. So the other thing I want to ask you, Joanne, and I don't think I've asked you this on other Celluloid Codswallops, is if you were going to make this, what would you have done differently? Or no, I'll rephrase that. You are given the task to make the perfect ultimate Catwoman film. You're a huge fan, you know your stuff, and I'm not saying that it's just like saying you have that ability. I'm saying that it's an obvious thing we know about you. You're a huge fan, you know your stuff. What would you do differently, and who would you cast?
I think I probably would have used the Catwoman in Batman Year One, who's a prostitute, and who was part-time dom by the looks of it as well, and who was living in the crime-filled part of Gotham City with the young girl that she rescued. I would have made it really gritty that way. In fact, she attacks. Bruce Wayne comes into the crime area. Before he dons Batman, he goes out to try and find himself, how he's going to fight crime, and he gets into a fight. He's dressed in a beanie hat and a sort of like a military style jacket, casual type jacket, and he gets beaten up. And she's one of the ones actually that lays into him as well, because does he grab? I think he captures Bruce Wayne, grabs hold of Holly because Holly tries to rob him, and he's holding onto her wrist, and she can hear. Upstairs, she hears Holly screaming Selena. Now, I could be making some of this up because it's been a long time since I've read this, but I knew it stayed with me at the time.
I think if I
she goes down and beats. Yeah, do you remember reading that?
Well, to a degree, because they dress him up like he's a bit of a taxi driver homage, I think, in the way he's dressed. Yes. He's going around the street, and I think it's Holly or one of the girls comes up to him and starts chatting him up, and she's obviously very young, because he's like a kid, and he says to her, how old are you? And she goes, as old as you want me to be, or something. The pimp steps in and like hassling her, and he says that, and Bruce says something like, I didn't say to stop, or some comment anyway, and all hell breaks loose, and that's how Selena gets pulled into it, because a big fight breaks out, basically, because I think he fights the pimp, and then the prostitutes start attacking Bruce.
That's what it is. Because it also led into Catwoman Year One. Or there was a Catwoman spin-off from that particular comic, how she gets beat up and then she learns how to defend herself, and she designs a costume, and her initial run-ins with Batman. That's the one that I would have told. Those are the stories I would have told, not this fairy tale bullshit that they came off with. I would have taken Catwoman back to her roots, definitely, because the 80s comics, mid-80s comics, sort of changed how we've seen superheroes. It was quite a dark time, because you had the Dark Knight Returns, and you had Batman Year One, and you had Catwoman, and even Superman got a bit dark around about that time too. And some people lambast it and they say it was all far too dark, and it should never have gone through that. But I think it suddenly made heroes into something that an adult really wanted to read. Anybody could read it before, but all of a sudden it was more adult in its thoughts and how it was portrayed. And I thought it was a great time for comics, and that's where I would have taken it back to. But as for an actor, that's a really good question, because I am shit with names. I I don't know who I would choose. I mean, when she appeared in the Batman trilogy that time, her name's gone out of my head now too. Who played Catwoman in the Christopher Nolan film?
Oh, Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway didn't really fit the bill for me. I didn't enjoy that movie anyway because I thought that was a waste of Catwoman. I thought that film was all over the place. It really was. So I don't know. It would take it to be somebody that had literal balls for me as an actress. I know. But actually, Halle Berry. RuPaul. Halle Berry could have done that role that I've just described. She would have had that in her to do that. So yeah, I would have given it still to Halle Berry and seen what she did with it. Give her a decent story to come in and actually make it her own. She could have made that her own. Whatever actress took that would have made that particular Catwoman their own because it hadn't been done before on screen. It would have been so much easier to do. I think it would have taken. You wouldn't have had to go, oh, it can't be like this, can't be like this, can't be like Julie, can't be like Michelle, can't be whatever. This would have been that person's own unique Catwoman.
And I've gathered, and how much truth there is behind it, I don't know, is that at some point for Darren Aronofsky's take on Year One, Halle Berry was considered for Catwoman in that. I was going to ask you, I mean, you kind of preempted in what you said, but I was going to ask you, do you think, or what do you think could have been done to salvage this Catwoman film? And you were sort of saying basically that, you know, you think she would have been good if they'd given her the right script. I also wonder if they had made it, say, an 18 and changed some aspects of it, could that have improved the Catwoman film we got for 2004? But the problem I feel with that is that, say you decide to ramp it up and make it an 18, what are you going to add to this dire story that looks like it could be, you know, like you said, like some child's version of a film almost, you know, some whack it on the Saturday afternoon film? I don't see how that could improve it. For me, if they were going to make, I still honestly believe that if they had made a film with Michelle Pfeiffer of the style of Batman Returns, we could have had a really interesting, screwed up, dark, gothic film that would have been, wouldn't have even been, I think, what they intended for her character. I would have gone really dark and twisted and gothic. And maybe you could have gone a bit Year One with it and had her maybe going off to become a prostitute somewhere to pull her life together, because I think the idea was she'd have amnesia. That could have been an interesting way of doing things. But, you know, I don't envision that any alterations he could have made to the 2004 Catwoman could have really improved it. I think you'd have to have started from scratch with something. I still would love to see Michelle Pfeiffer back playing Catwoman, even at the age she is now, because she still looks fabulous. She's still a brilliant actress. And to see an older character, an older Catwoman, you know, because we know that there's going to be this Flash Universe Flashpoint film where we're going to see Keaton back in. So I raised the question, why not see, you know, Pfeiffer back in as Catwoman in there, you know, in some form or other. You know, maybe they could be married.
Yeah, I think there's been rumours about it. Yeah, there has been rumours. Well, but it's probably been more fan wank, as it were. Really hoping that something will appear. I mean, the thought of Keaton dressed as Batman again, to me, he was always Batman. I absolutely adored his Batman. I thought he just nailed it perfectly. He was the closest to the him and Affleck. Straight, you agreed on that. We had that chat before. Yep, definitely. Affleck was the lethal Batman. He was the one that would have literally terrified you. He was more like the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Yeah, that's what he reminded. He was Frank Miller's Batman, and even had the short ears. And I thought he was fantastic. I could go off on another diatribe about just how good he was. Yeah, there is nothing that saved this film. Absolutely nothing.
It's terrible that I laugh because I'm literally just thinking how we have really struggled.
I know. Well, let's face it, you and I, we could talk about anything for hours on end. And we've gone from the highs of Batman Returns to the literal lows of Catwoman. And you know what? I've gone from feeling really sorry for the film She's just really bloody annoyed now. I'm absolutely fucking raging that they wasted the character that I love more than anything. Whenever I watched the Many Faces of Catwoman, that small documentary on the DVD last night, I was inspired enough that I went down to my study and started working on I Have an Arkham Asylum Catwoman cowl, and it's dreadful. It's an excoser, which is it's a sort of like a mass produced make. So I went down last night and started to hack into it to reshape it. That's coming along quite well, and that was because I was simply inspired because I'd seen Michelle Pfeiffer again and all the other Catwomen that I really liked, and I was sitting eating a bag of those green marble ball things that arrows do. And I thought, I need to stop eating now. I'll never get into a catsuit again. But I was just so completely enthralled with it. And that DVD, I could happily throw it out, but bar for that one little documentary on it. Because Catwoman means an awful lot to so many people. Obviously, me included. She goes deeper than just some floozy in a catsuit. She's complicated. She really is a cat. She's independent and she does what she thinks is right for her and for the people that she loves. And she's not a goody-goody two-shoes like Supergirl and Superman and even Bruce Wayne to a certain degree. She is her own person. And instead we got somebody that was whingy and who whispered an awful lot. That's right, there was a lot of whispering going on at times too. But there was the odd moment where we seen Catwoman in the film. But, that was probably 30 seconds top. I don't know what else to say about this one.
I will say one highlight of this film for me, and I'd be interested to see if you noticed it. So the idea is that in this film, Catwoman has come from a long line of cat women or something in history. And when she's at, I can't remember the character, so Halle Berry's at Francis Conroy's house or whatever it is, and she's saying to her, you are now Catwoman. And she's showing all the different Catwoman in history. Did you notice something?
I didn't notice it, but I read about it that Michelle Pfeiffer was in one of the photographs.
Yep, that's correct. That's the highlight of the film for me. You see the real Catwoman, Selina Kyle, and it's a shot of Michelle Pfeiffer.
I don't know how I missed it. It was actually Wikipedia today because I thought, right, I haven't actually read the Wikipedia entry. Because I always go to the Wikipedia entry or do a wee bit of research online just to see what, a bit of background for the film. And I didn't even remember to look at the Wikipedia entry until about 5:30 tonight. And I read it on it, and I couldn't remember seeing it at all. And what's even worse was, I was sitting looking for it at the time in the movie, and I didn't notice it.
I found it. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to go back. So I always say this. I always say this to wrap it up, Joanne. What would you give this marks out of 5?
There would have to be. I'm trying to think. Isn't it Kelvin, which is measuring coldness? Something like that from a science point of view. I think we'd have to use a Kelvin range of temperatures for this because it just doesn't even deserve a 0. I'll maybe give it a 0.5. For those 30 seconds where I saw Catwoman, and I believed Catwoman was there. I'll give it 0.5 out of 5.
Right.
That's the most that I can give it.
I'm obviously, getting stranger in my advancing years because I will give it a 1. And the only reason I'll give it a 1 is because it's got a really good cast. That's literally it. I'll give it a 1 for that because the saddest thing is when you look at it, it is an incredibly good cast. I was right, it was Benjamin Bratt, but if you're looking at just the main people, you have, Halle Berry, great actress, Oscar winner. You have Sharon Stone, great actress, Oscar winner. Lambert Wilson, good actor. Benjamin Bratt, good actor. Alex Borstein, good actress. Frances Conroy, for God's sake, good actress. And it's just, what a damp squib. What a failure for the cast. So if you've not guessed, Salty Tadpoles, we hate this film.
I tell you what, I actually enjoyed it watching it at home 16 years after I first seen it in the cinema. So, excuse me, that shocked me. I was actually pleasantly surprised about that because I watched it in 2 sittings. The first time I watched it for half an hour, and I decided to go and do something useful. I can't remember what it was. And then I watched the other part last night, and I expected to be pulling my hair out and to be blinding myself with my Catwoman claws, but I didn't. I actually didn't mind watching it. So though I give it a 0.5, it doesn't reflect that I didn't mind watching it this time. 0.5 is probably more how I felt when I was in the cinema. I might be persuaded to give it a 1, simply because I didn't hate it like I expected to hate it. It still annoys me now, the thought of that this is what they give us. How dare they give us this is the Catwoman that they gave us? Sure bastards, because we deserve so much more.
Well, I think we've been talking of Celluloid Codswallop for this week. I think we'll both be able to get over the depression of having watched this. I'm going to cling to the idea, to the hope, that we get Michelle Pfeiffer in the Flashpoint film that's going to have, Keaton in it, back as Bruce Wayne and Batman. So, on that bombshell, I've been James.
And I've been having a nervous breakdown. Okay, I've been Joanne then.
So scandalous. You're dangerous, just get it up. The way you move, so scandalous. It's all about the two of us.